Hello, everyone. Welcome to the dialogues of the 24th edition of the Vancouver Latin American Film Festival. 24 years. The festival starts on September 10 to September 20 in the beautiful lands of the Coast Salish peoples, also known as the city of Vancouver. We'd like to thank all of our sponsors, the City of Vancouver, Canada Council for the Arts, the Government of Canada, CBC, Steer Magazine, British Columbia Arts Council in downtown Vancouver. Today, we have for this conversation a director that his film makes part of the section Así Suena. Así Suena, this is how it sounds. It would be the translation in English, but at the festival, we keep it in Spanish. Así Suena is dedicated to films that talk about music. We have 3 films in this series, and the film here to talk about it, Fabien Pisani, the director of Para Vivir, The Implacable Times of Pablo Milanés. Fabien is in Mexico City. Hola, Fabien. Hello, bonjour, how they would say in Canada, ¿verdad?
Hola, Christian.
How are you?
Hello. All good.
All
yes,
good.
no, I am in Tepoztlan.
You're in
Close to
Tepoztlan.
Mexico City, 1 hour away from Mexico City.
Yeah. And with a beautiful, you are like the best.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a joy. Fabien, well, welcome. Thank you for your time. As we say, the title is Para Vivir, The Implacable Times of Pablo Milanés. Many people, of course, in the world, but in North America, the music of Pablo Milanés, the co-founder of the so-called La Nueva Trova, this movement with Silvio Rodríguez, has made its mark in the United States for sure, but also in Canada. Even though in Vancouver we don't have a lot of Cubans, I have to say there are very few Cubans in Vancouver, but the Cuban music is well adored here in Vancouver. Fabien, the first question I wanted to ask you is, what's your relationship with the maestro Pablo Milanés, your personal relationship?
Well, he raised me since the age of 2. When I was 2 years old, my mother and him fell in love, and he moved with us, with me, my brother, my mom. And they stayed together for 16 years, and we stayed together for the rest of life. He is a mine, because he's still around, like now, for instance. So yes, he's my adopted father, the love of my life, also. Yes.
Okay, well, that's super interesting that you have that. I knew you had a personal relationship. I didn't know how close it was. So before we talk about this specific film and Pablo Milanés, I wanted to ask you, your relationship with the music and cinema is not your first film. You have a previous film about music that takes mostly place in Santiago de Cuba. Can you tell us about that film and your relationship with music and cinema and music?
Well, what I have been told is that my mom used to have a Chevrolet 56, and apparently I was always in the back, looking toward the back, to the streets, escaping us, and playing drums in the back seat. So I eventually convinced my parents to take me to the music school of Havana, and I studied music for 9 years. Percussion, symphonic percussion, classic music. So, but at the same time, I was very attracted to drums, to Cuban drums, bata, and others, and eventually to the drums. And I had a band. I had a music band. We used to play mostly Latin jazz, and I also did electroacoustic music, a little bit of composition, and so many of I think my is education, aesthetic education, let's say, is mostly through music. My intuitions about life, about human relationship, or many other things, is informed in a big part by how I understand music. So yes, I guess. And cinema, well, cinema came after that. After a personal crisis, we put music somewhere else in my life, although I keep it, I have done also music festivals, I have produced music records, so I am involved in many music projects. Um, and yes, so logically, music is always part of my life, and then it's part of the how I understand cinema and the movies I make. Mhm.
And I guess, why did you decide to make a film about Pablo Milanés, your adopted father? I mean, there's a million things, a million reasons, but what is the reason that motivated you to go into a journey? Making a film is very difficult, takes years of your life. Um, what did motivate you?
Well, the truth is that I was convinced to do it by two friends, two brothers, two friends, brothers of life, and I didn't think my privileged relationship with him allowed me to undertake this adventure, and so I was convinced by two friends, and basically needed to convince my father. Well, he couldn't say no, basically, but he wasn't so enthusiastic at first. He wasn't that interested about the film on his life, and he connected or got hooked up with the idea when he understood I wanted to talk about. Um, my parents in another dimension, that the anecdotal one, the parents of my friends, the parents of our generation, our parents. So I wanted to talk about Cuba. So then he got more involved, let's say.
And you wanted to talk about Cuba and how the film was premiered last year, I believe, in what's called the film festival in the UK, right?
Sheffield,
Sheffield.
yes,
in the,
Sheffield,
in the
yes.
UK. It's a very important documentary film festival. Then it's been in many, in New York Documentary Film Festival, in Mexico, in Morelia, and many others. Cuba, it's a difficult place to show films in an open way, to show arts, any sense of arts in an open way. What's happened with the film in Cuba?
Well, a couple of things. The most important one is that today the country is like practically without electricity. So, so, so nothing much is going on there. In terms of cultural activity, life it still goes on. So, and we submitted our film to the Havana Film Festival. Of course, it was very important for us to show the film there and to bring Pablo back to his audience. It was very important to him. Of course, it's very important to many people in Cuba who grew up with his music. And and the Cuban, well, any festival have the last say in terms of what made the selection of the festival. So they never responded. So the movie didn't screen in Cuba. We were invited to screen the movie by the Norwegian embassy, which has a fund to help Cuban cinema, and special venue for that in the embassy that is called Cine Bajo las Estrellas, Cinema Under the Skies. This open air, outdoor space. So, so we have shown it there twice already, which, yes, obviously was important to me. It was important to many people in Cuba and to being able to see the film. But that's about it. A couple of people that organize other film festival in Cuba, like smaller ones but important ones, reach out to me because they want to screen the film. But at this time, I mean, we don't know what is going on with any of those festivals or any cultural activity in Cuba, given the situation.
Well, I'm glad it showed, and I guess the reception was good when you showed it at the Embassy of Norway.
Beautiful, very moving,
Great.
very moving. I mean, what surprised me the most with this film, And you said it before, it's making a film is extremely difficult. This one took me 15 years. So yes, it's very reconforting and vindicating that you know that people thank you when they see the film, and they have been very thankful. That's how we would describe the general reaction of people when they after seeing the film, and that is very touching to me. And of course, everyone have his own personal story about my father music, his what he represents, how he you know what they how he marked their life.
Thank you, Fabian. And we're a film festival. At the festival, we love Cuban films. We have a couple of years ago Pavel Giro here. We had a small retrospective of his work. We had many Cuban guests in the past. We show films of everybody, Carol Lechuga, Lester Hamlet, Cremata, all great people and friends of the festival. Um, so, what is music? Because we talk about cinema in the festival, but and we know a lot about Cuban cinema in this festival. But what is music for Cuba? I know it's huge, but for you, what is the representation of music in Cuba? Music is a huge part of Cuba. I guess I just wanted to ask you, as a society, how important.
No, I think you said it. It's very simple. It's key to Cuban life. It's key to Cuban cultural artistic production, and um, it's influenced Cuban social life and political life as well. So basically that's key in my two film, which is I try to go deep into a cultural history of Cuba through two very different characters at two very different moments in history. Pablo in the 60s and 70s, then Candyman in the late 90s and the early 2000 years with the beginning of reggaeton in Cuba. So yes, the intuition behind that, and beside my desire and personal history with both of these characters and history, it was to deconstruct a little bit Cuban cultural life and Cuban life at two different moments in history through two music phenomena. So yes, I guess music is central to understanding Cuba and approaching Cuba also.
And Fabian, thank you for your time, and to finish this
Thank you for the invitation
and
to the
then
festival.
this
So I will
short.
be there with you, but yes, please send me some pictures.
No, and I want to ask you one last question. I wanted to say
Go ahead.
a last, maybe painful question, because many Cuban artists are now in exile. As we say, we know about filmmakers. All of our friends, filmmakers, are in exile. I'm sure very musicians. And Cuba has also very distinct from other Caribbean countries that they are not only good in music or in baseball, they are good in many other creative areas. The performances in Cuba, the filmmakers, as I say, the painters. But there is a big exile. People are leaving. Would you think there will be another era of Cuba's art, of the Cuban artist scenes, that is being told from outside, like a new films made by new Cuban immigrants making films outside? You think they're gonna go back? You think it's gonna be a new scenario of Cubans making art outside of Cuba? You have any guess in
I,
this?
I don't think anything. I keep working and I keep going back to Cuba to see my mom and the friends that stay there. And that connection still is painful, but still important to me. And yes, I hope so. I hope people, I mean, Cubans, keep, yes, making new things from wherever they are and keep going back to Cuba. Why not? But yes, I have nothing more to say about that.
Fabian,
Mhm.
thank you very much for your time. And
Thank you.
we're going to show you some pictures, and I'm sure the film is going to do great here with the Vancouver audiences. Saludos, Fabian. Muchas
Saludos,
gracias.
muchas gracias, Cristian. Un abrazo. Chao, bonito festival.